Transylvania now. Black Spring of 1990, Part 2. By Adelasso. 29 years ago in March 1990 a pogrom took place in Mersvezer, also called the Black Spring, which represented perhaps the first blood of the post-communist settlement in Eastern Europe. In the biggest town of Seeklerland, with more than 160,000 inhabitants, 52% Hungarian and 48% Romanian, that time, the liberation turned into pogrom in only 3 months after the Revolution of December 1989, when Romanians and Hungarians embraced each other in tears celebrating the end of the Ceausescu's dictatorship. 20. March 1990, the battle. In the morning of March 20th, about 15,000 ethnic Hungarians gathered in the town's main square to protest against the previous day's events. A group of ethnic Romanians began to gather on one side of the square and by early afternoon they were approximately 3,000. Tensions escalated as word spread that buses of Romanian peasants from neighboring villages like Hodac, Ibanesti, Libanfalva, and others, were heading toward the town again to support the Romanians at the square. By 14:30 the chief of police gave assurances to both ethnic Romanian and Hungarian leaders in the square that the police had blocked the entrances to the city. But this was not true. Instead police allowed buses of ethnic Romanians through the roadblocks. And so at 17:30, violence erupted when Romanians, breaking the single line of 50 policemen that the authorities had sent to separate the two groups, attacked the unarmed Hungarians with their traditional working tools, like axes, bludgeons and pitchforks. First the Hungarians were escaping from the square, but then they tried to arm themselves by dismantling fences and benches and returned to the scene. Indeed, after this it was possible to know who was Hungarian because they held green staves. Later on also Molotov cocktails were being produced and thrown at the Hungarians. At about 2000 hours, small parties of young men began to arrive, all of them wearing white shirts so that they would identify each other, and they were well armed. The Hungarian gypsies from the surrounding villages arrived and shouted, "Hungarians never fear. The gypsies are here." The Hungarian crowd roared, and together, they attacked and forced the Romanians back behind the armored vehicles. One of the gypsy leaders later told to Kinksas that, "We are Hungarian gypsies, and it hurts us if the Hungarians are being beaten. Today you, tomorrow us." Although the police and army had been made aware of the potential for violence by both Hungarian and Romanian leaders, who had made numerous reports of the escalating tensions in the square, the authorities failed to respond in an adequate manner. According to a 1990 report by Human Rights Watch, the authorities failed to respond in an adequate manner to protect the citizens of Mersvezer/Targu Mures. The results: 5 people died, 2 Romanians and 3 Hungarians, and almost 300 were injured before the Romanian army finally intervened and restrained the clashes on the 3rd day. Later, more than 40 people were convicted, all of them, except 2, Hungarians or Hungarian gypsies. The attackers of Andrasudo had never been identified or convicted. In the following years, the number of the city's inhabitants fell by 10%. Most of the people leaving the town were Hungarians who moved to Hungary, changing the ethnic composition of the town as well. The reasons why the ethnic clashes didn't turn into a civil war like it did in Yugoslavia, for example, political scientist from Bucharest Gabriel Andreescu has pointed out at a roundtable discussion in Budapest in 2012 that Romania was not Yugoslavia, and that a particular model of communication played an important role, because there was communication between the Hungarian and the Romanian intelligentsia. The Romanian writers also came up against Iliescu in 1990, unlike the Serbian Writers' Association, which supported Milosevic's nationalist policies in Belgrade, Yugoslavia. In other words, there were forces which were not interested in deepening the conflict and eventually managed to avoid civil war in Romania. Looking from another aspect, also the fact that the Hungarian leaders could convince Székelyes living in Zaklykarastur, Zaklyadvarhely and Czikzirida not to come to Mersvezer, helping to protect fellow Hungarians after the anti-Hungarian atrocities of March 19, was definitely a major component in avoiding the escalation of the conflict. According to Alad Kinksas, who himself alone convinced 12,000 people in Zakliadvarheli to stay at home in the morning of March 20, this was the reason why Juvali miners Zerheli were finally turned back from Zaklikoksard, only 40 kilometers from the town.